What's up, everybody? Back again. What's going on? It is a very, very cold day here in Lucerne, Switzerland. We went from like 31 degrees down to like 21 in the space of like a week. So obviously it's good for sickness and everybody feeling the doom and gloom of summer being pretty much coming to an end, I guess. I don't know. All good here on our side. Good training at CMA this week. Some good sparring, and I'm looking at some places. I'm meeting some landlords tomorrow to continue the search for our gym space, and a new boxing, a new mixed martial arts gym, essentially, a new space for our equipment, a new place for our clients to be happy punching each other in the face. It's tough. It is tough. Gyms are high risk for potential lockdowns. A lot of people are saying that there's going to be no further ones. I disagree. I think we're going to be in the shit again in November, but that's just my conspiratorial view on the world as it seems today. But we'll try and negotiate some good terms and see who can meet us on a more realistic level. But it's good. We're in high spirits. We're not losing anything right now by not having a place to train. We're using the beautiful space that is in Lucerne outside. We have a beautiful city here, so all is good. Today's topic is a bit of a strange one. We're talking today about something that I would not have thought I would be talking about, months, years down the line. There's a fight at the weekend. I think it's Sunday night in the US and it would be Monday morning in Europe. There's a guy called Jake Paul and he's fighting a guy called TYRON Woodley. Really, really strange situation, and here's my breakdown of that fight and over analysis of the whole situation. Again, my conspiratorial clock is ticking up here and I'm trying to figure out what's going on because it doesn't make sense, I've been working on coughing off the mic and it's been benefiting me to unmeasurable degrees. Fighting nowadays is in a really strange position. And I saw something on a podcast this morning, and it was a podcast that was recorded 3 years ago. And it basically, the guy in the podcast was saying that we are starved for stars right now. And 3 years later, we're in the same position. UFC, what is there? Who is the biggest star in UFC right now? Who's active? Who's got a license? Who's fighting? I would have a hard time thinking of a right answer on that one, or a good answer, an educated answer. Years ago, when UFC was about to be sold, they sold that based on the current status of UFC. They had Brock fighting and winning. They had Conor fighting and winning. They had John Jones fighting and winning and beating up, that was Conor, beating up the old guy, sorry. And that was a few years later. I got my words tangled up. I might have had a couple of Red Bulls today, so stay with me. But to bring it back full circle, 3 years later, we're in the same position. I don't know what's going on. And this fight at the weekend is just a prime example of that. TYRON Woodley is a retired UFC former champion. He was at the end of his career. It was all over. He had put the gloves down in the cage and that was it. And out of nowhere, he's fighting a YouTuber who can throw a couple of right hands and jabs. I don't understand it. I understand it from a financial perspective because the money that these guys are generating are like unbelievable. The finances that are going into this company is called Thriller. It's unbelievable what's being generated, and that's why I can't ignore it. I have to talk about this now because it's such a spectacle. So Jake Paul is talking about, and he's thrashing Dana White about fighter pay. Now that's a separate discussion in itself, but you've got things like with what's happening with UFC fighters fighting their contracts and unhappy with fighter pay and basically just you sign the contract, you agree to these terms. And a lot of these fighters are fighting out their contracts and they're done. When they're older, they retire. And all of a sudden, someone like Ben Askren comes in and fights after he retires. He fought Jake Paul. Now let's go back a step. Jake Paul fought a guy called Nate Robinson, NBA player. Knocked him out. It was a terrible fight. They hugged and clenched the entire fight. It was disgraceful. But it was Jake Paul's first fight. And I remember my first fight. Nerves, not able to throw a punch properly, huge heavy shoulders, couldn't get my combinations together, barely. I don't think I threw my right hand once. But when you talk about his second fight, and this is where I'm going to step back for a second. He fought Ben Askren. Ben Askren is an MMA vet. Go check out his highlight reel on YouTube. He's a killer. Now, he did not have the best UFC career. That infamous knockout against Jorge Masvidal, where the fight was seconds old, and Jorge ran at him, threw up this flying knee, and stiffened him before he hit the ground. So Ben ultimately retired after that and comes back, and he says he makes more money in this fight than he's ever made in his career. And I'm going to step further back and I'm going to equate this to something, again, conspiratorial. But when you look back on Conor versus Floyd Mayweather, I've got a theory that allegedly perhaps this could have happened. I don't know. I'm speculating. But there's no way that Floyd Mayweather would have been that stupid to put his legacy and his record on the line against this up-and-comer star that is Conor McGregor. Because remember, Conor didn't have the money he's got now until that fight happened. My theory is that Dana and Floyd met in a hotel in Vegas because they both live in Vegas, and they said, here's how we make a truckload of fucking money. Give me Conor. Conor, you're going to step in there. You're going to do what you got to do. I'm going to get my hand raised, but you're going to make a ton of fucking money. You're going to make $100 million. You're telling me that could not possibly have happened? Looking back, I didn't think that was the way it was in real time, but looking back, I go further back, and I remember a podcast that I heard. I don't know if this is true, but I think it may have been Chael Sonnen that said that Vince McMahon wanted to get into the MMA scene, but once he done his research, he said you can't control the outcome of your stars. And by not being able to control your outcome of your stars, you can't control the revenue. And that makes a lot of sense. In WWF or WWE, you can control who's the monster for the next 12 months. You can control who the fans love, who the fans hate, what you need from a big guy to make a small guy big, what you need for the big guys to generate like WrestleMania tickets and revenue, and merchandise is their big one. But you have complete control of all of that. When UFC sold the organization to WME, at that time, all their stars were fighting and winning, and their stocks were sky high. All of a sudden, Brock goes back to UFC. John Jones gets in trouble. Conor starts losing. Do you remember, I think it was December of a couple of years ago, where John Jones was supposed to fight in Vegas, and he had that issue with the picograms, so they had to end their end-of-year balance sheet. That fight needed to take place, so they got an emergency license a week before the fight to take everything from Vegas to California, because they needed that fight to happen for financial reasons. Everyone's like, what the fuck is this? Everyone who had a hotel booked, everyone had tickets, transport, time off, you name it. Everyone had to go from Vegas to California. Even the fighters who were coming from like New York, New Jersey, they were like, what? Another hour flight? Madness. So going full circle on this, the fact that there's a YouTuber called Jake Paul, and he's fighting a former, like, retired UFC champion called TYRON Woodley for a truckload of money, it doesn't make sense that it's a legit fight. And I think that if Jake Paul wins this fight, the whole thing is smoke and mirrors. And I think that we've been honey-dicked into this. Because you can talk about the exhibitions like Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. Everybody knew that was an exhibition, but everyone was so upset at the fact that it was a draw. That's how exhibitions work. But when you talk about these potential smoke and mirror fights, like, I don't believe Conor versus Floyd was a real fight. That's just me not believing it at all. I don't know what the deal is with Jake Paul and his pull at Thriller. I don't know if he's got a stake in the company, if it's a conflict of interest or otherwise, but I do know he's a phenomenal market guy. He's got a huge name from his YouTube channel, his podcast, his pranks from his brother. And his brother, Logan Paul, they've got a very good podcast. Impulsive, I think it's called. Very, very good. But now, like, and again, I'll bring it back to the Ben Askren fight. Ben Askren is a monster. He's a killer. Go check out his highlight reel on YouTube, and then look at how he fought against Jake Paul. It doesn't make any sense. He fought like a stiff old guy going in there trying boxing for the first time, and he got knocked out in the first round. Didn't look genuine to me. I don't know what's going on there. But I do think that the obvious foregone conclusion to all of this is that Jake Paul gets absolutely mollywopped by TYRON Woodley. And if any other outcome happens, then I'm off the train, and I'm like, well, this makes no sense. Because it makes no sense anyway. If you beat TYRON Woodley, no one's going to believe that it's a just fight. If you lose, your whole hype is gone. All the shit you've been talking about Conor and Canelo Alvarez is gone. So it makes no sense. And I'm going to be very, very glued to this fight to see what's going on, because Thriller is putting on some great fights. They've got some terrible fights. They've got great marketing. They're heavily funded. But it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. And I will watch this fight. It's on Sunday night in the US and like Monday morning here in Europe. But I will watch it, and I'll try and figure out if we're being honey-dicked or not, or catfished even. So let's see what happens with this. I'm going to be very, very interested to see this fight. And if it is what I'm thinking it is, I'm funneling it down now to my 14 minutes of complete and utter rambling. But what I'm equating all of this to is what's happening with fighting now is what happened, I think, what happened with music back in 2000s, mid-2000s, when MTV was MTV, and when you just turned on MTV and you let on the music in the background, you'd all your favorite proper music that was on MTV, and all of a sudden all of these good music videos and music channels. Remember Headbangers Ball? That was awesome. That all got wiped off, and they started putting on things like 16 and Pregnant and all those crap shows, Kardashians and shit like that. So MTV became this mockery show channel for shows, but ratings went sky high and they made a fortune. So you couldn't just make a separate channel and have it in association with MTV, or just keep the music the way it was. Everybody was happy with that, but no. So what I think is happening now with fighting is exactly that. I think what's happening is it's not the best fighters in the world, it's the most popular guys in the world that will now fight. You know, that's the way I see it's going, because more eyeballs are going towards that. I mean, Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather had something like 2 million buys. I think Izzy Adesanya's last fight had something like 800,000 buys. There's your money right there. Tell me what you think. I don't know. Put it in the comments. Let me know if I'm completely full of shit, if I'm just one of those tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists that doesn't believe everything that's at face value that is being pushed at us from the TV. I don't know. I'm sick of talking already, but here we go. I've been doing a lot of research on how to grow a YouTube channel, and my God, guys, I apologize as on behalf of a podcast thing and a YouTube thing. There are so many annoying guys out there. Hey, if you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit us with a comment, and hit the bell and all that kind of shit. Guys, I'm really sorry. Just subscribe. That's all I want you to do, and that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know your predictions for the fight, if you're going to watch or if you're not going to watch. Put a guess on it and see if I'm completely full of shit or not. But thanks very much for listening regardless. Take care of yourselves. Rock and roll.